All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to talk about a concept that's literally all around us, shaping everything from the natural world to our own economies. But it's something we almost never see. We're talking about emergence. And to really get it, we need to start with a pretty simple question. You know when you see a massive flock of birds in the sky? It's incredible. They swoop and turn and flow together, creating these stunning, intricate patterns. And you have to wonder, who's in charge? Who's calling the shots? Is there some lead bird at the front sending out orders? The crazy part? The answer is no. There's no leader at all. So how does this leaderless dance even work? How do thousands of individuals move like one perfectly coordinated being without any central command? Well, the answer isn't found by looking at the birds themselves. It's found in the space between them. What explains this is a fascinating idea that scientists call emergence. You can kind of think of it like the ghost in the machine. It's this invisible organizing force that lets incredibly complex order just bubble up from a few very, very simple rules. Okay, so what does that actually mean in plain English? Basically, emergence is when a bunch of things interact to create something totally new, something that none of the individual parts actually have on their own. I mean, you could study one little piece forever, and you would never be able to predict what happens when they all start working together. This old saying really just nails it. The system as a whole becomes something way more than just a pile of its components. A brand new quality just emerges from all those tiny interactions. I know this might sound a little abstract, but trust me, it's happening all around us all the time. Let's circle back to those birds for a second and see the exact, surprisingly simple rule that makes all that magic happen. And here's the wild part. The rule is just so simple. Each individual bird isn't thinking about the whole flock's beautiful pattern. Nope. It's just following two super basic local rules. Try to fly in the same general direction as the birds right next to you and, try not to crash into them. That's literally it. But, and here's the key, when thousands of birds all follow that simple, selfish little rule at the same exact time, the complex result is this breathtaking, synchronized flock that seems to have a single mind. That coordinated intelligence, that is the emergent property. Now, this same logic, simple rule leading to a complex result, it applies to maybe the most complex thing we know of, the human brain. Think about it. A single neuron is really just a simple cell. Its job is basic. It gets signals, and if enough signals come in, it fires off its own signal. It's basically just a tiny biological on-off switch. But get this. When you connect about 86 billion of these simple little switches together, their constant interactions give rise to something absolutely astonishing, consciousness itself. Your thoughts, your feelings, your memories, that sense of being you, none of that exists in one neuron. It emerges from the whole system working together. And this teaches us something pretty profound about how we study the world. The classic scientific method, called reductionism, is all about breaking things down into smaller and smaller pieces to understand them. But for emergent systems, that just doesn't work. You can't find the flock's dance by looking at a single feather. To get it, you have to look at the whole system at once. You have to study the interactions, not just the individuals. Okay, so birds and brains are amazing examples, for sure. But this whole idea of emergence gets truly mind-bending when we start seeing it in these massive, complex human systems that nobody designed, nobody planned, but that somehow just work. Seriously, think about it. There's no single person who decides the price of a cup of coffee. It just emerges from the buying and selling decisions of millions of people. Nobody plans for a video to go viral. It just sort of explodes on its own. But maybe the most incredible, most powerful example of all came from a very, very unlikely place. A World War II prisoner of war camp. This story is just amazing. So you have these prisoners, right? They're getting Red Cross parcels with things like jam, coffee, chocolate, and cigarettes. Almost immediately, they start bartering. But, trying to trade a jar of jam for some coffee is clumsy. So, out of this simple need for an easier way to trade, a solution just appeared. Nobody ordered it, no committee sat down and voted on it. Cigarettes simply became the money. A whole economy, complete with inflation and changing prices, just emerged from the ground up, all driven by the simple individual actions of the prisoners.
So, okay, why does any of this matter? Why is it so important to understand? Because this isn't just some cool fact about history or nature. It's a completely new way of looking at, and maybe even fixing, some of the world's most complicated problems.
If there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. When we face a really complex system that we want to fix or change, like a financial market that's crashing or a social network that's become toxic, our first instinct is to look for the bad guys, the broken parts, but Emergence teaches us that we're probably looking in the wrong place. The real power, the real lever for change, isn't in the individual components. It's in the rules of interaction between them. It teaches us to stop looking for a leader to blame and start understanding the rules of the game. Once you start looking at the world through this lens of emergence, you start to see these patterns absolutely everywhere. It changes how you see everything. And it leaves you with this one big question. What other invisible, unplanned, and powerful systems are humming along right under the surface, shaping our lives in ways we haven't even begun to notice?